I'm hitting it.
All right.
Jason, take this for a ride. There's some simple like WikiHow level internet sites you could go to that are like, try this, this, and this. And those 3 things are going to take you for a ride.
Mitch, have you done it?
Yes.
Did it work?
Explain it to me. Yeah.
We're talking about lucid dreaming right now, everybody.
I'm not a professional lucid dreamer by any stretch.
Your WikiHow level.
Yes, exactly. But there are a few exercises you can do as you approach bedtime and as you interact with sleep that make you more likely to have a lucid dream.
Can you give examples?
Yes. So one thing that you can do as you're going to sleep is ask yourself the question. It doesn't have to be out loud. It could be in your mind. But am I dreaming? Am I dreaming? What you need to do also is lucid dreaming occurs best. I don't remember all the cycles, but in one particular cycle of sleep. So after you've gone to sleep, set an alarm for like 30 minutes in, and then you wake up and you repeat this process. Am I dreaming? Am I dreaming? As you go back to sleep. So you're while you're awake, you're like building an awareness of dream versus of reality.
It sounds like some Inception thing here.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
I'm shooting from the hip. I'm telling you, just Google like how to lucid dream. There's going to be 3 or 4 good sites that you can just like try a few exercises. Yeah. It may not be good now that you're going on your trip, Jason, but when you get back, you need to try it. John, you need to try it right away. I think you'll have some interesting experiences.
What happened on yours? You got any interesting experiences?
Well, the first few times I tried it, it just felt like I was dreaming more vividly. And I think the vividness of it is part of it, right? Like it's more actualized. And if it's more actualized, the better you can interact with it. But I had one big accomplishment, and it's going to sound totally lame. But in the dream, I was in a tree, and I decided that I wanted to wrap my hand around a branch, and I did, and I could feel like the texture of the branch. And I was like, and then like boom, I woke up. They caution like noobs to not try to do something crazy the first time, like jump off a cliff and fly. They say don't do something extremely sensory because it's gonna break and as you get better at it and as you practice it more and create the discipline, then you can increase the sensory experience that you're having.
That's crazy. So when you woke up, were you like rubbing Lori's head or something?
No. I wasn't interacting with any realia at all.
I've had a few dreams where the sensory experience has been like overwhelming, or not overwhelming, probably isn't the right word, but just very, very real. And it's like maybe 1 or 2 I could count on like number of hands, but it's just
You told me one last time about the lady jumping on the head. That's scary.
that was I didn't actually like feel that, but like I've had somewhere like you can feel it like physical form.
I'm thinking, do you often have an experience where you're able to directly draw a line from the dream you're having to something that, like you were making the joke about Lori's head? Do you often have that experience where when you wake up, you're able to be like, oh, I see the connection?
Not often. I don't know.
Wait, you mean like an event from the last day or something?
No, like what he was saying, like I was touching the branch in my dream. I'm touching Lori's head in real life.
So like you'd be falling in your dream and then you'd wake up and you're falling out of bed or something.
Yeah. Or like, that makes sense.
I've had that happen before.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Yeah, not normally though. That normally doesn't happen. But
John, I was telling Jason. I think what you and Craig, I think, where I was suggesting we keep track of our dreams for a week.
Yeah.
I forgot to do it.
Dude, I had another one. I can't remember what it was though. Dude, and both of them. So I sent you that one and I can't remember what, somehow in my dream.
That was a good one.
I told somebody
what
to fuck
prompted it.
off though in my dream, right? Didn't I say F off to somebody? Yeah, the next night I said the same thing. I told someone else to F off. And I'm like, what am I doing in my dream where I'm telling like everybody to F off? Like
It's
it's not
because you're
normally in
holding
my,
it in and you're waking.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
coming out.
Gotta
I
get it out
guess.
somewhere.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I think I had like one other one. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's the one I sent you. I can't
That's
remember
another
what
thing
happened.
that's
That was
like,
yeah, that was a weird one with the weird. Yeah, I forgot about that. There was the weird cat, the gray cat, and the gray mouse. That was a sensory experience that was like terrifying. I could hardly go back to sleep after that. That one I
that was a
sent you
good
guys.
dream.
Yeah. So John, like I had this dream, and so it was like there were a bunch of people there, and it was like
Okay.
Craig had like I'm not gonna read it all through because I wrote down a bunch of stuff, but it like somehow like Craig had kind of set it together, like kind of like it was bachelor party or something. But there was like a bunch of at least a bunch of people invited, but it was boys and girls. So we're all in this house. People start showing up, and at first it's just like 5 people. Then these 2 little girls get there, and they're like sisters. I don't remember if they were twins or one was older or younger. I think one was a little older. And then I don't know why these little girls were there, and they weren't creepy. They were just little girls. Let me see. I can't remember what happened exactly. Let's see. She was older. Oh yeah, so one was older. Eventually, something happened. The girls started to freak out again. I think people, yeah, it just got noisy, and so then I was like, these girls were getting scared, so I yelled for everybody to shut up, and then let's see, one of then so like then I told like I think the older sister or something to take the younger one and like go upstairs and just like get in a safe place, and then I'd come find them later. And then I remember there was this, yeah, that's when I said F off because there was this girl, I don't even know who she was, and she was just like very like mockingly said like you're never gonna see those girls again or something. But like as soon as I told him to go upstairs, like I had this sinking feeling that I wouldn't. And then this girl looked at me and she's like, that was a big mistake or something. But she said it like kind of with a grin on her face. And I was just like, F off or something like that. And then I went to look for him. And like, I just remember like this cat, like this little gray cat was like running around my legs, like Mitch's cat. But it was this gray cat. And I can't remember. I don't remember it scratched me or not. If it did, it didn't hurt. It was just like being bothersome. And so I kind of kicked it away. And I go upstairs and I just remember like I get to the top of the stairs and to like my left, there's this long dark hall and it like just kept getting darker as it went back. And there were doors on like each side. And I remember there was one door at the very end, like the very end of the hall. And then there was one on the left. And so like I don't remember why, but this is kind of like important in my dream. Like they were both kind of at the end of the hall. Like I don't know which was the last door. So it was like I don't know. And the girls were in one of those rooms. And before I could like start going down there, I just felt like something crawling on me, like on my neck. And I was like kind of brushing it off. And then I kept feeling it over and over. And so finally, like I like reached and I grabbed it. And it was like this, it was like probably about this big, like maybe a little bigger than a June bug. And it was round. But then when I grabbed it, it was like a little gray mouse or something. And I like threw it from me. And then as soon as I threw it from me, I wake up in my bed and I feel it crawl all the way down my body, all the way down to the tips of my toes and leap off my toes. And I'm just sitting there in bed, like wide awake. Like what the heck was on me? It was just so weird.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then I just laid there and I was like, man, I can't go back to bed. I was up for a
That's
while.
weird.
Did you write it down immediately?
Yeah. Well, shortly after that, yeah. Because I needed to because I was like, I can't go back to bed now. I'm like, this little critter is gonna come back and get me. I don't know what it was, man.
Wow, how weird.
They say that if you write it down, if you get into the habit of writing it down immediately after, then you're better at remembering your
I've heard
dreams in
that
general.
as well.
Yeah.
Once
yeah,
I had a really good one, and I thought this is great. I've got to like make this into a movie. You
We're
know how you
talking
always
about
think.
Craig, we're talking about dreams. We were waiting you to record, and then Mitch brought up lucid dreaming, and I was like, I gotta hit the record button. So we're going.
I had to pull out some big guns after I saw you get the guitar out last time, Craig. I was like,
Yeah,
I had to come
yeah,
and swing it or something.
You guys like Oasis?
Who doesn't?
Wow.
So go
Guys,
ahead, Mitch. Sorry.
my wife, who I love, after I bought these chocolate covered almonds, hid them in the closet somewhere she thought I wouldn't find them. How cold. And
You
now
tracked it down.
I was gonna
You-
get just a tiny little bowl of them, but not so anymore. I'm gonna just
Yeah,
I'm gonna
you
see
found
Pooh
him.
Bear scooping them out right here.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mitch. What were you saying, Mitch?
I like this. this spite eating here.
I know.
My wife tried to hide these from me, but I'm gonna eat them all right here on camera.
It's still fresh hearing Craig say my wife. That's super cool.
I know.
All right, Mitch, go ahead. Your dream. What are you saying?
Oh, yeah, I had one, and you wake up and you're like, this is gonna be such a cool movie. And the minute you start explaining to somebody, it falls apart completely, ontologically. But I was recording it on my iPhone, and I was saying it, and as I was saying it, I fell back asleep. And so I have like a 30-minute recording of me just breathing. I had to keep it, of course.
I'm gonna play that at your funeral.
I don't know. I'm looking through my dreams. I haven't had that many lately, but I've been trying to write them down. So
I normally don't remember mine, but I kind of, in a weird way, am happy with that, if that makes any sense at all. Like, there's a part of me that feels comfortable not getting stuck in something terrifying, like yours, Jason.
It sounds like you don't want to have any introspection, man. I don't want to know what's going on in there.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm fine with being introspective, but maybe introspective to a degree where I can control it. I don't know. That's the idea. That's the thing about lucid dreaming that seems kind of creepy to me, is because I don't know. I've only known one person to do it, and he stopped because there was some recurring bad experience that he was having. And I don't want to slip into something like that, right?
Did he meet a spirit?
I don't remember what it was. I think it just ended up being like, you just couldn't sleep for a long time because of this recurring nightmare that he kept getting stuck in over and over.
The power is kind of scary if you think about it.
It is kind of scary. Yeah.
Like maybe in this dream world where there's no consequences, I can just, wreak havoc, What's that going to do to your psyche?
I don't know.
What kind of person wants to really wreak havoc, though?
Oh, you are right now with those chocolate covered almonds.
So I watch the world burn.
So let's go through. What's the scariest dream each of you guys have had, or one that sticks out with you very strongly? Can you think of any?
I had a recurring one when I was younger, where I would not shrink, like get smaller, but like shrink, like thinner. I would become ultra thin, and it felt like my fingers were like needle sized, and they just felt icy and pointed in the way that a needle does when it pricks you. It's horrible. I woke up from that dream when I was a kid, and I went to my dad and I said, I hurt myself. And he's like, clearly you haven't hurt yourself, And I was like, no, like I need a Band-Aid or something. And he like put a Band-Aid around my finger. I was like, phew.
That's creepy. That's really cool, but that's creepy.
Yeah.
About you, John?
They said I used to run down the hall screaming some nights, and I would always say, my hands. My mother tells that story.
Creepy.
That is.
Very frightening.
Anybody else got one? Reoccurring or anything else?
I had a recurring one when I was little. I think I was in hell.
Oh, yeah.
But that was also back in like back when Left Behind was really popular and stuff like that. And so the devil made me play a game of dodgeball. And I was playing dodgeball with the devil. And I can remember it. And I had that dream probably, I don't know, a couple hundred times.
Mercy.
Same dream. Yeah, I had it for a couple of years. Yeah, dodgeball with the devil, and everything was really hot.
And name caught it.
Yeah.
Was he wearing a uniform, or was he just? What did he look like?
Shirts and skins.
Have you seen the movie Dodgeball? It was just like that, but 150 degrees.
Ben Stiller.
Yes. I picture that Satan looking like Adam Sandler.
Oh man. Craig, you got one?
Man, I have mine's almost too dark. I feel like I don't want to say it now.
Say it.
Well, I don't know. I'll tell you, I routinely have bad dreams. I kind of wake up and I'm like panicked,
Mm.
and that's just how I start my day. I had this dream in the last couple of weeks. It was horrible. I was in this restaurant, and the waiter messes something, and everybody says, "Oh, it's fine. We're gonna let it go." And then the manager comes out and he says, "Did this guy screw this thing up?" And we're like, "Yeah, he did." And then they bring the guy out. Like there's two bouncers and they've got this guy by the arms and they're pulling him out and they drag him on and throw him on his knees. And they're like, "This is the guy." And we're like, "That's the guy, but it's okay." No, and then there's this guy who comes out with one of those executioner's implements and they execute him and the whole place just erupts into like murder. It was insane. It's like people shooting other people and there's children. It was crazy. It was horrible.
Oh my gosh. What does it mean?
I'm not in that business.
Were you murdering also, or did
No,
you
I was-
refrain?
I was trying to get out.
You're just like, this is too much for me. I just came here for a meal.
I don't
Well,
know
as
if
long
you've
as you're not
ever-
doing the murdering, it's not that bad.
I don't know if
Right.
you ever had one of those dreams where you're the person doing the bad things, but those are always the most unsettling.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
I'm sure I've had them at some point. Like where you've killed somebody that you love
Oh,
out of
man.
anger.
I love those
Like that.
dreams because they're so good to wake up from. I mean, it just feels.
Oh, I agree with that.
I can't. Thank God I did not do that.
Oh
I
yeah.
agree with that.
It's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, because there's that terror that settles in, and you're just like, and then you wake up and you're like, you don't know where you are for a second, and then you're just like, oh my god, no, that was all
Especially if you're
fake.
just like trying to be like, this is it for me. Like, are you trying to like,
Yeah.
how am I going to respond to this? How am I going to explain this to people? And then the burden is lifted. Thanks, consciousness.
Yeah. Unless we take dreams seriously, right? They're not illusions. Yeah, okay, so here's one thing that's really weird. Like, and I think I've mentioned this maybe to all of you guys before. I don't know if I mentioned to all of you, but have I mentioned my friend Mike that his dream where he actually met with a friend of his in their dream? They both had like the same dream. It was really
told
strange.
me about that, yeah.
Yeah, so he had this dream and he like needed something from this girl, and he was like, and so in his dream he was looking for her or whatever, and then she had the same dream, and she in her dream she had something she needed to give him, and I don't remember what it was, but they like, I think they met up in the dream, or he ended up seeing her in the dream, but I don't know if he got what he needed from her exactly. And then she ended up calling him the next day. So it's just weird that they're like, somehow their consciousness, like I don't know if they had the exact same dream. Like, I don't know if that was the case, but they like were somehow connected in the night.
Yeah.
It's really odd. Yeah. I don't know.
If that happened a lot more often, we would be asking some serious questions.
Yeah. Maybe it does, and we just don't ever do anything about it. Like maybe it happens more, not extremely often, but more often than we know of, because like you just have a dream and this person's in your dream and you don't tell them about it.
Yeah.
And like maybe they had a dream that night as well with you in it, and they don't tell you about it, and so you just never know. I mean, I'm not.
I'm gonna go on the record and say if any of you are in my dreams, I'll talk about it the next day, and I expect for me to have shown up in yours.
All right. Unless you're murdering me, right?
It's on.
Unless you got murdered by me in your dreams.
It's incredible how,
Oh my God.
speaking for myself, it's incredible how often I write things off. When something like that happens, I'm like, all right, even if I think it's consequential or phenomenal, I'm still like, oh well,
Yeah.
moving on.
What if, John, you have a dream where you killed Jason? You called Jason only to find out that Jason died in his sleep.
Oh, mercy.
Oh my gosh.
That'd be
I don't
so-
even know what I would do.
Dude, let's try it. Let's do it. Let's start lucid dreaming, and we'll see if we can kill each other. First one.
Let's
First one-
do something less dramatic at first, you know? Maybe
Well,
I'll
I'm
just come
coming for
visit
you.
or something.
I'm getting on
This is
Google
a good-
Wiki lucid dreaming, and I'm coming for all you guys.
All right,
Mitch
this
just
is
taught me how.
I'm writing a sequel to Inception, and this is the plot. I've got dibs.
It's called Dodgeball with the Devil. Oh man, yeah. I used to write dreams off a lot, but then once I started taking them seriously, I was like, they just get so much more impactful, and I think they are too. Like even if you don't remember them or don't write them down, like just the fact that you're experiencing them is like.
Yeah.
Like then you wake up the next day and you could be mad at someone the next day, like and just not really know why, or you had a dream about them, but then you kind of have this weird thing under your skin about them, or I don't know, they affect you, and so they affect you more than like we were saying before you got here, Craig, because we mentioned like going like Dreamworld is a place, and like you go there because you don't actually experience sleeping on your bed, you experience whatever you're doing in your dream. So I don't know. But then, yeah, the other thing I noticed too is like when I started writing them down so many times, almost every time I wake up from a dream, I think it's just absolutely absurd. And I'm like, there's no point to writing this down whatsoever. Like, this makes no sense at all. And then if I actually will make myself write it down, I'll read back through it later. And I'm like, this is the craziest, like, most awesome thing I've ever read. This is so much fun.
You know,
Yeah.
that's
You go.
okay. That's crazy because, you know, it just makes me wonder how much of how much of that we're doing all the time. If in Dreamworld, where the meaning making machine is going full force and it's just taking whatever it's handed and it's saying, okay, these are the laws, these are the rules. That makes sense. That's how that works here. It just makes me wonder in waking life, like how much of this is just nonsense that I'm saying, okay, well, I got to do something with it. So here you go. Sort it out in
Yeah.
the boxes.
Man, I may have said this before, so stop me if I have. But there's this line in Orthodoxy by Chesterton where he's talking about Robinson Crusoe. You guys know where I'm going with this?
No.
You know what? So in Robinson Crusoe, there's a shipwreck, and Robinson Crusoe he recovers all these items from the wreck. And Chesterton says that list of items that he recovered from the wreck is the best part of that whole story, because he got exactly what he got, and that was what the story was about. And it's kind of like that with our, with the world that we live in. There's two sexes. There's, the sky is blue. We're a certain distance from the sun, and we rotate around things. The laws of physics are the way they are, and that's just the way it is.
Now
And
go
it's
play ball.
it's so particular. It's
yeah.
so particular.
That's cool.
Others I've heard say, the world is only given once. So I really resonate with what you're describing.
Say more. I'm really interested. Can you keep going on this idea? Both everybody, just chime in.
Well, it makes you wonder what could it have been? I think I've heard it put this way. If we imagine there's a God who created this place, did he have any choice in how to create it? Like, how else might it have been? What structure is necessary and what structure is arbitrary?
This is why I can't remember. I think it was on Grill Country or something, where they're saying that Job was the linchpin of the Bible. And I've had that stuck in my head, because if you can accept your lot and trust a higher power, then you're just a miles ahead. I heard a story earlier. I sent it to you, Jason. I'm not sure if it was the right song, but it was contained in a song. It was saying, have you heard the story of the cosmonaut who was alone in space, and while they're up there, they start hearing this tapping, and they look for the source of the tapping because it's extremely annoying. They're going all over the machine, taking everything apart, just cannot find the source of this tapping. And they're in space. It's not like they can escape it. And so the cosmonaut realizes that the only thing to do is to fall in love with the sound. There's some there.
That's interesting. How would you fall in love with that sound? My thought would be to have like some sort of communion with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like start
I
talking
think
to
it's,
it, give it a personality or something.
yeah, you romanticize in some way. It's like when you're
Yeah.
stuck in traffic. Like, how am I going to romanticize this? You know,
This
these
is
beautiful
just-
blinking lights everywhere. There's this music coming out of the radio.
This is just
Fine,
like
right.
when they're working on the railroad and they hit it at the same time and they sing a song to it.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one.
You know, there's, I don't know if this really gets under my skin, and I want to know if it does for you guys as well. We think about, let's say gravity, for example, things that are large move towards each other. And that's just the rule. And you ask why, and there's no answer. Things like that. You know what I mean? It's like there's situations where we can tell each other how it works, but there's like a bedrock of inexplicability.
Mhm.
Wait,
Mhm.
so okay, wait. Things that are large move towards each other because of gravity.
Well,
That's what-
that's what we call it, but
Yeah.
why should it be that things that are large move towards each other? Or
Trey, Trey, I mean, you know Trey. Everybody here knows Trey, but people that are listening don't. But he's brought up gravity recently too, and for some reason, my mind always immediately jumps to like attention. I just start looking for the parallels and stuff, and it makes total sense to me in that way. Whatever's large is large moves towards each other. Like whatever you're giving the most attention is you're gonna draw yourself to it. It's gonna draw near to you, type thing.
But regardless, I think no matter how much we figure out or how much we hypothesize, I think there is a bedrock of inexplicability, and it probably has something to do with faith. Must be a very necessary human thing that you need. I was shopping the question around the only true currency in this life, and somebody gave me my favorite answer, which is trust. At some point, you have to trust something that you cannot confirm with your senses, and that could be an idea or that could be a person. But there's a presupposition that has to happen to carry on.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought of trust. I really like that one though. So I think that even gets at wisdom, because kind of at the heart of wisdom is that, because we often think of wisdom as like knowing things, but at the heart of wisdom is that you don't know anything. Like, and the more wisdom you get, the more you realize how little you know, type thing. So the more you have to trust, in a way. Like the more, yeah. So like the more you actually learn, the more you realize how little you know. So the more your faith should increase, actually. Does that make any sense?
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah. That's
I
weird.
mean, it's true, and it's some.
Oh, Craig,
you
so
go
why
ahead.
does that get under your skin though? Why does having that bedrock of inexplicability get under your skin? I like that. That doesn't bother me at all.
Well, it's mysterious, and I like that, but it's creeping. It's haunting
Why?
because
Uncertainty.
it demands to be explained.
Oh.
It's taunting. Do you know what I mean?
It's a, but isn't that, Is that taunting or is that enticing in like a good way?
Well,
Is it?
imagine you're in a room and you're locked in this room. And it's a large room. There's plenty of things you can live your life in there. There's, you can grow food. Your whole life can be fine in there. But there's a door on one wall in the room that is locked, and there's a keypad on it. Or it has an answer, and there's a world beyond, and it just if only. Do you know what I mean? It's just there perpetually.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll paint a different picture for you though.
Please.
So let's think of it as a piece of art, and it's the most beautiful art you've ever seen. And you have no idea how it was made. And it's just so beyond you how the artist was able to create this masterpiece. Don't you think that having a full understanding of how the art was created would lessen its magnificence? That's kind of how I feel about some of those things. It's the mystery that makes it so beautiful.
Man, it's I got to tell you, I know this is partially a matter of taste, but it's beautiful.
I think it is.
It's beautiful regardless. Do you know what I mean? Like if we understood every bit of it, it wouldn't be any less beautiful. It's just
because thinking of it as a keypad seems like that's something that I could and should have access to. I just don't because of some arbitrary restriction. But if I think of it in terms of something that's just in like out of my reach, then it becomes a lot more comforting to sit in.
I don't know that it is out of our reach. I mean, there's been plenty of things that we thought were out of reach in the past in terms of what we can know about our own context. And we've developed better answers to those things. And it's playfulness. I mean, it's like it's a game. It's as if these are breadcrumbs that were left for fun.
Right. I do agree with that. I also think though, if we're working off of the hypothesis that there is a an all-powerful creator, you would hit that wall eventually.
But even if we don't work with that hypothesis, if you think more knowledge, or more understanding of context doesn't necessarily mean you're in a better scenario. And so you have these empires rising and falling, and they're getting to the top, and they're finding that there's still pros and cons. There's still ugly and beautiful.
But I do think it's like a game. I think that's right. Playful is a good word.
There's this thing that Eastern folks say sometimes, that all of this is God playing hide and seek with himself. Have you heard that?
I have, yeah. Yeah, and I tend to agree.
I don't understand that, I guess.
You called, Jason?
No, it's starting to rain on me. I'm in my car for a second. But yeah, I don't know if you can hear the rain. Does this have to do with that video you sent a while back with the math thing? That what was that? There's a giant flaw in math.
We were talking about incompleteness. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's related. At least it doesn't strike me as. You're probably right, but
because my thought would be, I don't know. I want to make sure I'm tracking with you guys. So you're saying it's irritating or taunting that there's there always remains this mystery, or this thing I can't quite understand.
John is saying no. He's there on my screen. Craig is saying yes.
But because whenever that, it seems related to that math thing to me, because the math, that's what it is, right? You want to number everything. You want to have everything accounted for.
Sounds like the Antichrist, if you ask.
No, yeah, well, according to
everything to work out.
But you can't though, because like that. Whenever I was watching the that video you sent, Craig, for some reason I just kept thinking, I didn't understand a lot of the mathematical terms, but it just made me think of free will. And I'm like, if you believe in free will, then mathematics can't work, in a sense, because and if you believe in forgiveness, it can't really work either, because if you have a law and it's very okay, this is like very black and white, and you can understand it clearly, and so you have this hard line, this law, and then it's like, if that's broken, then if there's forgiveness, then it can just redo it and put it back in order. And so it doesn't make sense. Like, it just makes no sense. Forgiveness is absurd, because it does that make sense? Am I even making sense at all?
I'm following.
Like, yeah. So if like you have I'm not like, the things are connected in my head. I'm just not sure how to piece them together with words, with having everything completely understood and all that. I mean, even people aren't like that. Like, everybody's always going to have this little bit of mystery to them. And then even if you guys did, say you had me completely figured out, I could just do something just despite that, because I have free will, you know. Like, or say it's 100% chance I'm gonna wake up tomorrow, and it's like, I'm in perfect health, we have it all accounted for, my heart rate's good, there's like 3 seconds till the next day, I'm gonna be in the next day in perfect health. I could just put a bullet in my head, because there's free will. Like, you can't have everything accounted for. And then even still, like, you could with forgiveness, it's like that. I mean, that's very physical, that's a bad example because it's very physical, but like, do you get what I'm getting at? Like, even with the law, like, you break the law, and like in the Bible, it's like the law, if you break it, you're dead. But then there's forgiveness, and so it's like, well, then it's not accounted for anymore.
I don't think any of us would say that you can account for everything.
Yeah. Okay. But is that what we're getting at, though? 'Cause
But
that's
actually,
that's
you're
what's
saying
annoying.
it's frustrating that you can't, right?
No, it's not. It's not frustrating. It's haunting. It's animating. And I for a fact, everybody here is animated by that. That's why we're doing this. It's because we want to know
That's
what's
true.
underneath all this.
Right.
Yeah. That's why we're having these
But
discussions.
there's just conspicuous things that are invitations to that.
And I would conjecture that our difference in opinion and approaching that is probably just due to personality.
That's probably true.
I would imagine that's just why.
That's the feminine, though, right? Because she's the question, the quest, the mystery. So Craig just wants all men. All men. He wants men to rule the world. I'm just
Yeah, you
kidding.
sexist.
I like this. This is creepy, guys.
I think what I'm saying is, I think that we're meant to be on a quest, and the quest is animating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case. And probably, I think, just like, I feel like I'm repeating myself for some reason, but just like faith is a necessary part of it, is a necessary aspect of human life. I think quest is too. It doesn't suit our current sensibilities to not have something that we're pursuing. But I think, at least differently from Jason, think that one day that will not be the case.
I was getting ready to ask, but it's all right. Whatever. My heaven's gonna be space exploration.
What a letdown.
Your heaven's going to be nothing but dodgeball.
We'll hope so.
Yeah. I think I'm getting a little wet, guys. Should we get into this book actually, or no? We don't have to.
Whatever
I'm fine
you
with
guys
this.
want to do, I'm fine with whatever.
All right, so let's take a poll real quick then before we turn off the subject. Heaven, is it completeness? Because the Bible talks about it being completeness and this rest. But to me, that sounds awful. If it's just like, it sounds like a repose and like, it almost, I have no way to conceptualize it other than like kind of a death in a way. Because it's like once things are finalized, then it's the settling, and then it's just dull and lifeless, no more creation. And Mitch says you can't think of it as in, what was the term you used? Stasis or staticity? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's stasis. I think it's completeness.
So there's no more creation, there's no more exploration, there's no more frontier.
Or maybe that's just a constant. That's just it's not a 1 foot in front of the other thing. It's a constant.
We mentioned this briefly last week, I think, when I was talking to you, Craig, and John. I think I brought it up briefly, where I said I feel like there's this a difference in viewpoints with the age to come, whereas like some people find an extreme amount of peace in the idea of rest and completeness and fullness and all that stuff. And me, I don't know. I just, then yeah, you have other people like where, I mean, I like that idea, but I also like the idea of like having this eternal mystery, kind of like we're talking about, where things aren't complete, they're not known, they're not understood, like still having this door to open, like you talked about. There's still always this door with this mystery behind it. Like I like that idea. I don't know. And I don't, I mean, we don't, I guess we technically don't know what it's going to be like, but yeah.
I mean, I completely agree with you, Jason. I remember
Yes.
like
Me and John.
I'm on your side. I remember like being a kid. I'm sure we all had this experience, but like being a kid and hearing that heaven is just like praising God 24/7. And I really didn't want to go to heaven. You know, I was like, that sounds, it's like a church service for the rest of eternity. I can't do that, you know?
I know. Yeah.
But I mean, I've kind of, having spent time in the scriptures, man, and talking with you all, if heaven is a place of completeness where you're lacking nothing, and it's the communion between Christ and his bride, I would conjecture that all the things that constitute completeness are there. And I think that wilderness and that extra door and that animating spirit is part of what makes us fuller people. So I can't imagine that would go away.
I don't feel complete without incompleteness.
I mean, really though, actually, right? Because then what separates us from being God?
I keep thinking, you know, and we talk about life and death and or life and afterlife several times lately. I think there's something very fundamentally different. And so the things that we need, like faith is a good example. We need faith right now. Then we'll not. It will be made sight. We need exploration now, but then we won't, because we'll have found what we sought, what our heart's desire was. And so I just think there's something so. I think there's such a transformation that the things that drive us, animate us now, are going to have passed away.
And I think that's, I mean, that might be true. I don't know. Like, none of us really know.
Well, because I'm disturbed by the concept of eternity, or just that something just never end, or yeah, even a sense of like, we often think of heaven as a particular place, you know,
Right.
that you're at forever.
Right.
So stuff like that is disturbing to my mind now, but I don't think that will always be the case. I think when you encounter the chief good, then you can't feel anything but satisfied.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so, yeah, like I was saying, I mean, maybe if the anime does completely change, and that's probably the case, but I know either way, I'll feel completely animated and satisfied, right? So it doesn't really matter to me because I have faith that it's going to be okay. You know, I don't think I'm going to get bored.
Just do you conceptualize it as a place, as a I want to know what you imagine when you imagine whatever we're talking about. Like, are we talking about a place in the classical sense?
It's probably the way that it's best to imagine it, since that's the picture we're given. But I wouldn't think. I think the actuality is so much deeper.
But if that's the best way to imagine it, because of the picture we're given, then wouldn't it be also to imagine heaven the same way? I mean, like, well, that didn't make any sense, but I just sorry. Um, because you're saying you just got through saying there's something, like, you believe there's something completely fundamentally different about it. Like, we can't really trust this fallen world we're in to conceptualize that, but then we are supposed to kind of conceptualize it off of what we're given here in a way.
I think we've been handed the most helpful image for it.
Yeah.
But I think it's just like the maybe the most helpful image to imagine God as a father, but we can also see all the pitfalls to that metaphor.
Yeah, it just, I don't know how to picture it. I don't really necessarily see it as a place, but I do. It's hard to throw away time and space. Like, I know there's a whole idea of like it rolls into eternity, but it's like, well, why is there time and space to begin with? Like, why? It seems like love creates things, and then in creation there's like this weird dividing, but then love also pulls them all back together into a oneness at the same time. And so I don't know how to, I imagine heaven would just be like that, like but then it just sounds like the place we're in, except without I guess except without all the sin and bitterness and people fighting each other's heads off.
I mean,
Yeah, we may go ahead.
well, I imagine everybody here has probably at one point touched Super Mario 64 on the Nintendo 64. Have you guys ever played this game?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, you start this game and you're in this place where there's these bombs walking around and there's a castle and you ascend this mountain. That place, is that level, is that a place? Is that place real?
In the video game, because we've gone there, because we've all been there, we've played it.
Yeah, I'm curious if you think it's a real place.
Because we've all experienced it. So in terms of experience, I guess you could say it is.
This feels
It's
like a
weird,
trick
man.
question.
It's hard. Well, it's hard for me because it's not tangible, right? It's not well, here's where it gets really tricky for me, is because I say it's not tangible, right? Like I say, you can't smell it, you can't it's all just digital, you can't touch it.
Well,
But
you're engaging two of your six senses.
yeah, but the fact that you play it, if it actually has such a crazy impact on your life, you could actually experience it in ways that, like, if you're really, really looking and paying attention, you might actually recognize it, but you probably wouldn't otherwise. Like, I mean, I guess you could say the obvious way would be is if people like, you dress up and stuff, and you dress up as Mario and you go and see it, and you go to those Comic-Con things and you see all this stuff. You could say it that way, but I'm talking about it even differently, where it just it has such an effect on your life that the story aspect, the imagery, the symbolism embedded in that Mario game, that it actually plays out in your own life. I think here I'll give a different example because I don't know how to do it with the Mario one because I never played that as much. But so there's like Final Fantasy 9 is probably I played all the not all the Final Fantasy games, but 6 is probably one of my favorite ones. But 9 I've played more often. But there's this. So the story is, you have these two characters. Basically, your main character, the main bad guy ends up being, you find out later he's your brother, and you kind of go and you end up meeting your maker. So you kind of meet the creator. You find out, okay, the most evil guy is actually my brother. Like, what do I do with that? I think you end up killing the creator god guy or whatever. But then at the end of it, like the brother guy, your main character's name, his name is like Zidane or something, and the other guy, the bad guy's name is Kuja. And so Kuja ends up like trying to destroy the world. He ends up losing. He falls into down into all these thorns, like into this big pit. And then your character and all the other good guys on your team, you're all fine, and you can just walk away. And the main character decides, no, I'm gonna sacrifice my life and go down into basically down into Hades sort of idea, go down into the big thorn pit down there where your brother's going to die and try to save him. And it's like that narrative story has stuck with me, and I think it would stick with other people, to where it's like this, you recognize the guy who's trying to destroy the world. Hey, we are brothers. The same creator made us both, and you're willing to give your life for that person and reach down as far as you can into the depths and see if there's any saving grace for that one. That story stuck with me. And so I think that narrative and all the imagery that's thrown in there too, like actually plays out in your life in tangible, physical ways, to where, I mean, maybe that would happen either way if you never heard that story or played that narrative or anything. But I think the fact that you do, maybe it gets in your subconscious in such a way that you actually do see it in the physical, in the natural. Does that make any sense at all? I feel like I just rambled the whole bunch.
Yeah, but does that make it real?
Well, it would be, right? That'd be very real. It'd be more real than the game you were playing earlier, right?
I mean, I would agree that the narrative is real, but I don't know if that means the place is real.
The place.
Like, to answer Craig's question specifically, right?
Yeah. The digital place. Okay.
It's subreal. It's a lesser reality.
Perhaps.
And if let's say we're in a lesser reality than, say, the living God, and if I wanted to give Mario a glorified body and a glorified mind, I would, delete those, whatever makes up a video game. I don't know the technology, and I would, take CRISPR 100 years from now and invent Mario in flesh and blood, and then he would have a glorified body and a glorified mind.
I think we've probably covered this territory before. John was saying, and I think Jason was saying, it's more real than real because it's distilled reality. It's the patterns of relevance of our experience concentrated.
Yeah.
Yep.
To me, okay, so maybe this gets back into the gravity thing too. It's that Mario game, whatever, has such an impact, such a weightiness to it on your subconscious that it starts pulling matter and time and space into reality for you. So it becomes a real place. It's not necessarily, I mean, it is in a weird digital space, but it could actually become a real place in
what you're saying is that it can affect your reality, right?
Yeah.
We know what we're talking about when we say real. We're talking about I mean, it's like a self-evident thing to
Physical.
us. We're interacting with reality. And so when we say, oh, that story about Pinocchio is not real, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's not real. It's something we made up.
But
It's sub-reality.
we have privileged a certain mode of consciousness, the one where you feel like you're not asleep, the one where you feel like you're not in a simulation.
Yeah.
But it's not by no means the only mode of being conscious. Do you know what I mean? Like you might say, when we say real, we just mean not in the dream.
Yeah, we know what we mean. We know
But
exactly what we mean.
So you
And
mean-
we don't mean that it affects our reality or that it has some high truth value to it, or we mean that it's real.
Yeah, but that's what and I don't know if I'm making sense. I thought that's what I was saying though. Like it actually is. It is real.
But,
Like,
but
or
some
it can
people
be.
say that, but how do you make sense of the experiences like Jason is describing, where you experience something that feels more real than real, more real than normal real?
I can't think of something like that.
I know what you're talking about, Craig.
Yeah, I get that when I'm having a dream that I can be duped into thinking it's also real, but I can't think of an experience where something seems more real than reality. I think that there is something more real than my reality, but I don't have autonomous access to it. Just like Mario doesn't have autonomous access to his more real reality, which is me sitting there playing him.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you another question. What is more important, for an experience to be real or for it to be relevant? Given the choice between an experience that's real and an experience that's relevant.
We only even know how to qualify relevance based on reality.
Say more.
Well, when I say something's relevant, I'm talking about how it interacts with my reality. So it's a plane below.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you need, for something to be relevant, it's relevant relative to something.
You might have a dream or a simulation experience that is hyper relevant for your life in general.
Yeah.
And then you might have an ordinary day that you live out where not much happens. Which one of those would you prefer to experience?
Probably in just a base. I always want the experience more pleasurable. And so to the extent something exciting is more pleasurable than something boring, I would want the simulation, but the simulation is still subject to the reality.
Are you talking about you're acting as your most integrated and activated self? I don't, when you say prefer, do you mean you'd prefer it because the pleasurable thing is expedient?
Yeah, I'm saying when I say prefer, I'm talking about in a base way.
So Craig, are you drawing the thread connecting the thoughts of more real than real is equated to things that are relevant?
Yeah, I'm wondering what you guys think about that. We talk about real as if it's
Right.
in a primal ultimate virtue, but I'm trying to make a hierarchy of what's more valuable. Is it more valuable for our experiences to be real, or is it more valuable for them to be relevant?
I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but I would think that the things that meet the criteria of being more real than real, maybe that'd be better phrased by saying it's the things in reality that are most relevant relative to reality itself, that are rooted in reality. So the things that are the most relevant with respect to reality. Does that make sense? Like
Right.
you can, so this is a weird example, but I was working today processing some data off of a thing that was vibrating, right? And I had accelerometers mounted all over this thing, this structure, and they're all vibrating. And I was trying to pick out the certain peaks in the data that I needed to see. And everything that was in the data was really what was happening. But I had to I had to write a code to filter out, to get rid of what's called the noise floor for the accelerometers. So even though everything that I was looking at was actually there, I had to eliminate a lot of the noise in order to see what was going on beneath all the junk. And that was what I actually cared about. So I would consider those peaks realer, the most important realness that there is, right? I don't know if it's realer than real, but it's certainly the most relevant.
But don't you need?
But that's interesting because it captures an aspect of reality, because there was, in reality, that noise was being generated,
right?
And also that signal was being generated,
right?
So that was ground reality, but it wasn't the most. There was only a section, a fragment of that was relevant to you.
Is that not like, is that not the same as your hypothetical hyper relevant case though?
Say more.
Well, you said, would you rather have something be hyper relevant to reality or a regular humdrum day? Some, is the synthesis of something that is hyper relevant just a condensed version of?
Well, let me put it this way. I wonder if I'm not trying to lead us to an answer, by the way.
Oh, okay.
but the fact that we live in this very real environment where there's a signal that we're trying to parse the noise away from. It's as if there's something more real, something more pertinent that we're trying to get at. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
That's embedded in the noise of real. And when
it's not something that's more real that we're trying to get at. It is something that's more relevant that we're trying to get at. But reality is not like, when you talk about a base reality, the base reality of me is not my molecules. It doesn't become more real as it expands to my cells, etc. Reality is more total than that. So
like
the echelon of reality is not most basic part to least basic part.
I think I missed the connection to the basic parts to.
Well, you talked about a base reality that we are parsing through to get to the relevant information, when actually we're parsing through the least relevant stuff to get to the more relevant stuff. We could say that, but we're not parsing through base reality to get to relevance.
I think I got lost on that last part. I thought I was tracking.
What is? It seems odd that we, given our real experience, we would throw away most of it and select. I just wonder what conclusions we should draw from the fact that we throw away almost everything and we select certain signals.
Well, within reality, we do have to make determinations about how we should behave inside of it. And the container that we have is not big enough to not ignore most of it. There's some kind of grace to the things that we pulled out from the shipwreck here on this island. There's some kind of grace to a handful of supplies that we seem to be ingrained to kind of work with. I'm really stuck on this self-evident truth, and it's amazing that we seem to come out accepting certain things, or that generally people are accepting certain realities sort of without going any deeper, and that's kind of a miracle. And I think it's amazing that we can say that's real and that's not. And we all pretty much know what that means.
Do we though?
Yeah, that was going to be my question.
Yeah, we do.
Do we?
Why? What constitutes it as real?
Even
Like,
if you want to say we know because we choose to, that's fine. But we're all sitting around here knowing stuff. We're all operating on some pretty big ifs when it comes to the presuppositions we're building up from. So if we say I'm just choosing to know that I exist, and from there I'm choosing to know that my senses are trustworthy. And from there I'm choosing to know that will hurt me and that won't.
But if we say like how, man, I feel like I'm walking on thin ice here. To say that I'm not saying we don't know that. Like, I'm not trying to say like we're not sure what's real, but I'm just saying like I don't think you can determine that on your 5 senses or whatever you go off of, because then God's not real if you're trying to make that claim.
No, we know that God is real.
How do you determine that without faith?
It's a self-evident truth.
How is it self-evident?
We just know it. We're born knowing that we can trust our senses, that we exist, and that God exists.
No, but
probably 2 or 3 other things.
You maybe, but what about like people that say they're atheists? Like, they would say the opposite. They'd say that's not a self-evident truth to them.
Well, I would say that because it's self-evident to me that God exists, I would say that they were not being truthful when they say they don't believe that God exists.
But the presence of God isn't validated by sense information in the classical way that we use that word. Our senses, we don't detect God with our senses. I mean, you had just alluded to the trustworthiness of senses in figuring out what's real, but he doesn't reveal himself to us through our senses the way that the rest of what we think is real does.
Craig, are you telling me you've never smelled God?
Well,
I think that's right, Craig.
Go ahead, Craig.
How can it? So there's a class of things that are self-evident that are not evident because of our senses.
Some things are self-evident, unrelated to our senses.
What do we have a name for that category?
I think that it's best to categorize them all as self-evident truths, including the trustworthiness of our senses.
I don't think my senses are trustworthy.
Sure you do.
Do I?
Yes. You know when you your hand on something that's hot, your touch is telling you that it's hurting, and you
Okay,
choose to remove your
when
hand.
we started this off, that weird dream I shared where that little critter was crawling on me. Was there
Yeah.
really a little critter crawling on me? Like, cause that was on my senses. I physically felt that. I had another dream also where I was petting my dead dog and I woke up and she wasn't there. And I was like, oh, this is sad. But I physically felt her. Like I could see. I have never, and just the other night, I had the same dream. Like I dreamt my friend's dad was driving a car, and I've never been like able to particularize, like to put a face like that well together. Like I could see it so clearly, like all the wrinkles, everything, and he's dead. Like and then having the dreams where I physically feel things, like it's not. I'm saying it is a trustworthy sense to some degree, but I don't think I can throw everything on it because I think that's, I mean,
It
isn't
can
that
be
where,
deceived.
yeah, or something. Yeah, I guess.
Sounds like we also don't have reliable ways to distinguish when what we're perceiving is deceptive.
I think so. I think in general that we do, because I think when Jason woke up from his dream, his eyes told him that his dog was not actually there, and I think that he realized that his eyes were probably right, and then he moved on.
Well, he could only tell that his senses were deceitful after having an experience of waking up.
I don't
But
think
if you
they were
had-
deceitful though. Like
Right,
I
if
don't.
you
I
had
mean,
a- if
you go
if you
ahead.
had a
Go ahead.
dream, if you had a dream or hallucination that lasted a year, and someone asked you in the middle of it, are you being deceived by your senses? You'd think, no way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but fortunately, that's anomalous, right?
So our sense data tells us.
And we can trust it. We know it.
There's a lot of exceptions to the rule, though.
I don't think I was being deceived. I mean, I think that's what I think it was part memory, part hope, part imagination.
Sixth
Really
sense.
manifested in a very impactful way. I mean, that whole day, I remember, especially the first half of that day, I was just like in another place, man. Like I wouldn't say it. I don't think I would say that I was deceived, and I don't think I would say that it wasn't real because it had an effect on me. Like it had an effect on my day. It caused me to do things differently. So it actually manifested in a physical way. Like it's not like the dog, she appeared there, but it's like that I would have probably gone about my day differently had I not had that experience. And then I don't know, I've been really, and that's something else I've been kind of playing out with more is just that I'm trying to think about memory as well and see like, because what's the utility of that? It can't just, I don't know. There's got to be a purpose for it. Otherwise, I wouldn't hold on to things like that. And I think that, so that's something I'm still thinking about. I don't really know how to process that yet, but I think that kind of, I think it's where, I think memory and remembrance is way more real than I give it credit for. Otherwise, I don't think we would even partake in communion and things like that. Because he says, do this in remembrance of me, And it's supposed to, I don't know. I just gotta think about these things more, take them more seriously, I guess. Because I used to always just think they're just kind of arbitrary and flippant or whatever. Sorry, I'm a nut. Losing my mind.
No, I'm just thinking if I agree with Mitch or not. I don't know. I'm conflicted.
Mitchell,
You don't
the book
have
you
to.
really-
I
you need
disagree with Mitch a lot.
Before you write, or maybe after you write Christian nihilism, you need to write Christian empiricism.
That's a tougher, somehow, that sounds like a tougher sell.
What's what you're saying?
Are you sure?
Well, the empiricists were, this is a school of thought that says that your senses are reliable, and that's how we build up knowledge about our context. It sounds like that's kind of a fundamental piece of your landscape.
I mean,
Ironically, and it's so funny that you guys chose to whack at that one, because I was thinking
you guys.
the other two suppositions were maybe a little more, but I would say that the senses I would even I think are more prone to actually I won't say that. I'll give Christian empiricism a chase down.
I do like the points you're getting at though, Mitch, because I don't think like that that we need to throw everything out and swing real hard the other way and say, well, like nothing's really true and everything's and we can't trust our senses at all, because obviously, like you talked about, I mean, these are things that are God given, the things we picked up from the ship, our senses, so we have to be able to trust them to some degree, but
They're
I
kind
don't
of
know.
the easiest to trust.
Yeah, and I think there's reason for that. Like, I don't think it's arbitrary at all. I think it's just definitely I don't know. Yeah, it's hard because you don't want to swing the other way and go in the other ditch and be like, and just say, oh, we don't know it's real at all, because it's like, well, we do know some things, but
Right. Well,
it's-
I think it might make sense to me to think of the senses in terms of them being tools in how to, them not being the extent by which reality is defined. Does that make any sense? So if it's a shipwreck, right, you have your 6 tools that you have, and you can do the things that you do with the tools, and you can interact with the things that the tools allow you to, but that doesn't mean that there's not more out there. It just means that,
Well,
you're,
and I think, it's nice to have a tennis racket. I mean, I can use it, but this hatchet is the one,
right.
like there's definitely a hierarchy of perception tools.
Right.
yeah, I guess it's all kind of related to the whole postmodernity thing too, and we're kind of coming out of, I think, as society or humanity or whatever in general, is kind of coming out of the state where we've massed everything down into just forms of just the material realm, and kind of said this is what's real and trustworthy, is just the material realm. And so I think the heavens are kind of being opened back up, and things like dreams and memory and all these other things and hopes and we're realizing that they're just as real as the material realm, but we're not quite sure how to.
When you say they're just as real, do you mean they're just as relevant?
Okay, I don't know. That's where I'm struggling to like track with you guys. I'm like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, this real relevant thing. So let's take the multiverse. Let's go here. So Mitch, there's multiple up in this realm, this heavenly realm of potentiality. There's multiple Mitch Caps that exist there, and he had this decision whether he could pursue having a child or not. And so there's like the Mitch that's not a father, or there's the Mitch that's a father. And so he took all of a sudden this Mitch slew the other Mitch and killed him. And now he's got a child on the way. Hopefully that's okay to say. I don't know. But then and so, but now that what was this invisible hope, Dreamworld, you could say, Mitch, has now is like manifesting in the natural, and it's only going to grow from there, because now like then the house will be rearranged, all this matter, this time and space will all be rearranged around what was just at one point just an idea, just a hope, just a dream, just a vision, that wasn't tangible, it wasn't physical, you couldn't touch it, taste it, hear it, smell it. But now look, it's Father Mitch, you can shake his hand, smell his hair. He's real.
Yeah, he's real.
Yeah. And it's only gonna get more real. And so it's like, but if it wasn't first there, then I don't know. That's what I mean. It's like it's real. It's just as real. It's just real in a different way. And I don't think I necessarily have I don't know that any of us necessarily have the right language for it yet.
I would use the language less real and more real.
We
But
do have a
I might have to go
terminological
inside,
problem.
guys. I'm gonna mute my mic and then go in.
How would you describe the terminological problem?
There's a turf war over the word real, where everybody wants to occupy this with a different definition. And it seems like we need some clarifying alternatives to
I
the
agree.
word real.
I caught on to your real versus relevant pretty quickly. I really liked that. That made a
Yeah.
lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I like it too. I think relevant and real are two very distinguishable words.
I think so too.
This is I'm pretty sure I picked that up from John Vervaeke. He talks about relevance a lot, but can I kind of throw something in front of you guys and tell me what you think about it?
Please.
And this is related to Jordan Peterson ideas. He'll say things like, what you see is a function of what you're aiming for, what your objective is. So you aim at a certain goal, and then you see things about the world in relationship to that goal. Do you guys think we're on the same page so far?
I agree with that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, you have this landscape that's made out of, now that you have a goal, you're looking at the world and you see signals and noise, right? And we say that they're real, but ultimately what you're interested in, you're trying to interface not with that layer that is signal and noise, but you're trying to interface with the layer that's purely signal. You see what I'm getting at?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so in a sense, I wonder if you think that if it's appropriate to talk about what we have called classically real, which is the layer of signal and noise. You could say, okay, that's real, but there's this layer that's pure signal. It's just pure relevance, and that's what actually we're aiming at. That's not the right way to say it. That's what we're interested in. That's where we're actually trying to act.
That's what we want to harness to make reality a positive experience.
Yes, we harness it, but we're trying to see through it. It's as if there's a veil, and we talk about real, but real is the veil. It's veiled by noise, and it's as if we're trying to see through the veil into something that's not real, into something that, when we say more real than real, we're talking about what is beyond the veil of the noise. You see what I'm getting at?
What do you think about defining it a little bit differently?
Yeah.
I think, at least for me, when we talk about more real than real, my mind immediately goes to the things that characterize reality as reality. So, for example, if I were to talk about you and describe you, Craig, to somebody, I would tell them the things that make Craig Craig. Those are the Craigiest of the Craig things, right? But there's a whole bunch of things. You have a face, you have two eyes, you have a beard, but that's not what I would go towards. And so
You
the
wouldn't
only
tell them about where all my moles are, and
well, I do know where all of them are, but I probably wouldn't talk about it. But like the craggiest things are the things that make Craig Craig. And so I think by cutting through that noise and just looking at the signal, the things that are more real than real, I think instead of saying, at least to me, it makes more sense. Instead of saying it's more real than real, it's the things that
Are more relevant.
that are more relevant or define reality.
it's the essential. It's about the essence.
Yes.
There's a world of essence, and Jason, it's like Jason talks about the world of fairies. You see what I'm getting at? It's like as if they're so. Do we think we're on the same page here?
Yeah, I
I
think
totally agree with what you're saying, John.
John's
Yeah.
move is really good because, and even if you want to say the essence, but it's why am I describing Craig to someone? I'm wanting them to take that signal, to use that information to the advantage of our reality. It's always subjugate and interacting with and in service to the total, which is reality.
But I don't think it's in service to reality. I think it's in signal. I think it's in service to that land of signals, the realm of essence. Jason, what did you put in the? What did you put in here?
We get some messages here. We get some signals.
Oh my gosh. I didn't realize I'd be downloading pornography on my computer tonight.
Oh, mercy.
I'm just kidding.
God
So, but
forbid.
so Mitch, you're saying that it's relevant to reality, but I think that reality is not actually, when we say real, that's not actually what we're interested in.
It is.
I think it's actually an obstacle. Like
But it's the whole thing. It's the thing we're inhabiting. It's everything. It's the total. And so we use signals to participate in the total, to move through space and time. We use signals to help each other out, to help consolidate. We consolidate reality with signals.
I think we're using signal in a different way.
We consolidate reality to essences, to relevance. We've consolidated Craig, which is so much more than John's going to describe to his friend for utility's sake. They're gonna move through space and time a little bit better based on the essences they've been handed about you from John.
I feel like we're not in the same place, but I can't figure out where we're disagreeing.
I don't think fiction. I think fiction is subservient to fact. If we want to just be gross about it.
But I feel like you just said the opposite a second ago. Because wouldn't the fact be Craig is a massive cellular particles, and that's a fact.
That's one facet of fact. What Craig was talking about at the crime scene a couple times ago, that's one area of it. But that's not the reality of Craig. The reality of Craig is so much more. And and John's going to give his friend the information that's most useful for them, and that's going to be subservient to the total.
Yeah, because you would tell people about Craig in forms of narrative, right?
You might. It depends on what the scenario is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you would probably describe his physical appearance as well, but you wouldn't go into all the particulars. Are we saying the particulars are the noise, like the cell structure and all that stuff that makes up Craig? That's the noise.
If John's friend is going in for a job interview, I mean, with Craig, he's going to say he likes this, he likes that, he doesn't like people who slouch, and that's the relevant details, but it's.
But if my friend was a doctor who was going to give Craig a checkup, I would tell him about his cellular structure.
Mm-hmm. And if it was a dermatologist, we'd get to those moles that John knows so much about.
I know all about them.
This little butthole for going poo poo.
Jason, those are so funny.
I can't get them open. Are they
Oh my
pictures of Craig?
gosh.
Yeah,
No,
you want me to
it's-
share a screen? They're not
Yeah,
of
just
Craig. They're not really.
share
of
the-
Craig. Is
No,
it
no, no.
when John was?
We're live here. We're live here.
Oh, they're not that
Okay.
bad.
I've got
This child's name is Joshua. Apparently, it's from this book called Once Upon a Potty.
That
I
is
don't know
so
why.
funny. That is so funny.
He has a head for thinking, eyes for seeing, ears for hearing, a mouth to talk and eat with, hands for playing, a pee-pee for making wee-wee, legs for walking and running, a bottom for sitting in, and in a little hole for it.
Okay,
and
that
then it
is not Craig.
for
That
making
is
Jason,
not-
show us your screen, Jason.
that is
All
a
right,
fiction.
all
That
right.
is a fictitious Craig.
All right, I'll share the screen.
Here, this is the second photo.
Oh, okay. That's the second one.
That's
I don't know why I remember this book as a child. I don't know if it helped me with potty training. Maybe it did. I can't imagine it did because I don't think I was reading at the time. So I was being potty trained.
And a little hole.
That was all signal and no noise. And I hope you all loved it.
That was the most
I don't know.
condensed version
So
of reality I could
here's a
give you.
question as well, though. This just recently came to my mind. We were talking about signal and noise, and I don't know if this maps on, but this girl, along a few years ago, she mentioned to me because I was talking about we were talking about reading the scripture and stuff, and she says she's fascinated when reading the Bible at what God didn't say, and she likened it to negative space in art. Do you think that maps on to this signal noise type thing? That a lot of times there's a whole different image in the noise that we're not even looking at. Because that's how it is with negative space in art. Like you could have, are you guys familiar with that idea?
Yeah.
It's an interesting question.
It is an interesting question.
Because I mean, I think the noise is I don't think it's like meaningless. I think it's less, I guess, like we're talking about, less relative. Like, I don't know. Do you actually need the noise to have the signal though?
Well, there are such. John in his lab setting may have been working with data that was purely signal. Such a thing may exist.
Purely signal and no noise?
Yeah.
Is it, can we liken the signal versus noise to light versus dark? Is that,
I don't think so.
that's a stretch? Okay.
Well, I don't want to be so hasty, but
Yeah.
I see, maybe I'm viewing this wrong then, because I see signal as sensified noise. I've taken a strain of this noise and sensified it for utility.
would you define sensified?
That's what I was thinking. That's what
I've
I was
made
thinking.
sense of it. I took what was nonsense. I took a wad of nonsense and put it together into sense. And now you can use it.
That's kind of how I was thinking of it as well. I think.
Are you talking about pattern recognition? You parsed the signal from your senses?
I think so, in a way. Yeah. I would think so. I think so
Yeah,
you'd have all these,
yeah.
like you'd have wood chips or something, a bunch of wood chips. It's just a bunch of noise, kind of a bunch of nonsense. And then he puts it together into a baseball bat or something.
Yeah. All your IKEA parts, when they come in the box, are nothing by themselves. And then you put them together and it's like, oh, my kid can sleep in this.
Well,
one.
it would be as if when you ordered something from IKEA, they sent you all the parts that you needed, and then a bunch of parts that you don't need.
Yeah.
Right? They're
Okay.
irrelevant.
Yeah,
That's
that's
better.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
But if we keep going with this, then zoom all the way out to planet Earth, and we've, chopped through the jungle to find all of the disparate things that we needed. Because if you just take the IKEA parts, some you don't need, some you you do or can use, then it's like, oh, reality is nonsense. But I tend to think, and here's my Christian nihilism plug, that we just don't have the capacity to make sense of totally useful parts.
You mean, are you saying that we have a kind of processing power, let's say limitation? We don't have the ability to collect all the pertinent information and process it, even if we could.
Exactly right.
Totally,
Exactly right.
I'm totally with you. What is nihilistic about that observation, or how could you draw nihilism?
I'm totally co-opting it because I don't have a good philosophical background. So if you would just indulge the pop philosopher in all of us, just think of it, nihilism as meaninglessness. We perceive reality as meaningless, and then the Christian nihilism element is there is one who can perceive it as meaningful, and he cares for us by giving us a box with the IKEA parts in it, instead of everything
And
the
the
whole
extra
store in a jumble.
parts.
Yeah.
So you can sit there and be like, what is this?
I would love to have
It's true.
a conversation in the future with the same group where we just talk about what you just said.
Yeah, so would I.
I need it, man, because I'm only 1,000 words into my book, and I need like 64K more at least.
Let's get that on the schedule.
All right. For sure. You do it while I'm in India.
What do we? I gotta ask you guys. What do we've talked about a couple things and we don't have names for them.
Signal and noise. We got names. It's all there.
Are you borrowing signal and noise from someone, by the way? Because that seems like a really handy.
John said signal and noise earlier. I think it's a common.
I think it's a pretty common trope, yeah.
metaphor in these types of.
That makes sense.
Continue, Craig.
Especially to those suited to those with engineering bents, like John.
Metaphor flying over my head.
Well, we described these things we said in the beginning were more real than real, and this is kind of, we've used things like this is the realm of pure signal. Maybe this is the realm of relevance. What do we? This was one thing. What do we call this thing? How do we all know what we mean when we talk about this? Do you see what I'm getting at? How do we label this?
I hoped you'd have something in mind, and you'd pitch it and you define it, and we'd all get on board with it. Even if you pitched a fake one, it might help me kind of get where we're going.
It seems related to the essence of things to me. Signal is I think a really helpful metaphorical word, but it's somewhat nondescript. It has connotations that can make us extend the analogy too far. Because we were in places we were flirting with the idea that signal meant transmission or like a message. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the realm of pure essence, pure relevance.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I think essence is a good word.
I only think it's a good word if it seems like a bridge too far from relevance, and it doesn't seem far enough to meet reality.
How so?
Well, something's essence is its being. and immediately, I guess, when you, so maybe it is equal to reality, but immediately when you start to describe something, you've taken a stare down from its essence. The description of something is not equal to the something.
Did you say it's not messages though? Is that what you said? What was the thing you just said, Craig? It was,
We're not talking about messages.
but are we talking about patterns?
Kind of. We're talking about. It's almost, you could say that this is the realm of pure patterns. Like it's the realm of pure. Let's say we're talking about 100 dogs, and we're talking about the things that all dogs have in common.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, for
Yeah. The
classifying them as
category
dogs.
of dogs. Yeah. The essence of dogs. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe
guess.
that's a misleading thing to say, but it feels like this is really intimately connected to the pattern recognition machinery that we were describing earlier. Like
Yeah.
Mitch, you were describing how it was right before you used the IKEA analogy. It's like you're given all this noise, and your brain, you're given all this sense data, and you parse out the stuff that's meaningful. And you're describing pattern recognition. You're detecting a pattern of signal in your
And
senses.
so you're saying what you parsed out would be the essence?
Yes. It's the signal. You've parsed out the relevant information.
To me, I think
like
they're all
that,
connected.
but essence feels misleading to me.
They all seem like the same thing to me in a way. I don't know why. I think that's why I'm struggling with it a little bit.
Well,
Like
they're pretty close.
even message seems kind of similar because
They are close.
I feel like it's getting along the, like when we talk about essences, it seems very similar to patterns, which seems similar to intelligences, which seems similar to the idea of angels, which seems similar to messengers, which is all kind of
What maybe we put it this way. What's the words to use for this that people are most likely to know what we mean when we say it the first time?
I do think the essence of all things sounds good for clickbait, for sure. So
I agree.
If we determine all of our concepts of reality based on the clickbaitiness of them, we're gonna be in so much
this
trouble.
conversation is about
We're
the
gonna say
essence
everything
of
in all
everything.
caps.
Yeah.
Watch his reaction.
Okay, so we're talking about, as a working title, we have the realm of pure relevance here, and we use the word.
See, that
We
sounds
can't
like
say
good
the realm
clickbait
of
too.
pure
That
relevance
Okay, you don't like
I
realm.
like these
because it's baked into reality, and I
Realm.
really want to distinguish these guys.
Okay, so this is the next step is we have different layers or different, they're like spaces. We have like the space of reality, the space of, they
Yes,
exist on
okay.
different planes, right? So now we need a word for the realm, which you don't like. The plane of,
I don't mind realm. I just want it to be set apart from relevance, because I don't want to make reality a plane. I mean, I know I'm not the only person in this conversation, but I think reality is all the planes. It's the total. It's experience, period.
Right, but I don't think Craig is discretizing it and breaking it apart into two groups in which the Venn diagram doesn't overlap.
But if we want to think about how to best portray it, I don't want to start with a misleading model.
this is interesting. I mean, because it sounds like we are saying like a Venn diagram, John, they're interpenetrating.
Yeah. Well,
Or at least-
I would say they're subsets of the other completely. I wouldn't say that there's any bit that's outside of the other.
So they're it's as if you have two transparencies that are the same shape right on top of each other. They're
That's the way
like-
I see it.
Like layers of,
And one might be smaller than the other. the realm of pure signal or pure meaning or pure,
Might be smaller.
Relevancy.
it would be
That's
relevancy
interesting.
would be smaller. Yeah,
Yeah, I would see that as encompassed in
right.
the
Okay,
reality circle.
but that's as if it's like we're talking. Maybe I don't know if I agree with this. I hope you can convince me. It's as if the Venn diagram, one circle was very small and the other one was large over here, and this one was totally inside of that one. Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
Yes.
That the relevance is within the relevance is the smaller circle inside the big one, is what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, think about it real quick. If you're trying to, I think sometimes, at least in my mind, it's easy to speak so loftily to the point where nothing means anything anymore. And so sometimes, like in my own head, I boil it down to an example of my own life. And so if I needed to find meaning or relevance or purpose for something, their interpretation of that meaning or relevance of that something would be in the context of the reality that I've experienced. There is no stepping outside of that original box that I can go to find that signal, right? And if I were to find a signal outside of something that I've directly experienced, I would have to widen my original underlying box of reality to encompass whatever I'm trying to find. Does that make sense?
Yep, I'm trying to find the relevance of this little mushroom in Super Mario World.
Yeah.
so how do you fit in? We've talked about dream experiences or simulated experiences that we were trying to say earlier aren't real
Yeah, they're not.
in the classical sense. So they're not inside of that. They're not inside of that big circle on the Venn diagram. How do we fit those in here?
That's
They
fun.
are
They
real.
actually are.
I think that they are.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll
I
say
agree with
that.
Mitch.
yeah, it's really fun. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. So wait, so that's what we're saying then? Because to me they're real. We just haven't considered them relevant, right? Is that what we just concluded? Do we just come to
No,
the conclusion?
I think you still need to call them not real, but they exist. These non-real things exist within reality. So that's actually a pretty big problem.
They're not material,
I
but
think
they're
that's
real.
where the Venn diagram becomes 3D. You have your circle here, and then your dreams are like this. So it's within the other one, except you're moving up and down vertically.
Pull out your Microsoft Paint, John. Show your screen. Show it.
Microsoft
Yeah,
Draw us
let me sketch
draw
out
us a
something
diagram.
real quick.
I know the solution. It's that they're subreal. They're sub-realities. So we won't call them non-realities. We'll call them sub-realities.
Does that mean they're less than real?
Yeah,
They're below reality? Like they're positioned-
less real. They're not less than real, but they're less real.
You would think that
I don't know that I agree with that.
sub implies below, as in foundational almost.
Yeah.
I like
no.
this idea a lot of the transparent Venn diagram, right? So if you had this stack of discs, right, and each of them represented one of these aspects that we're talking about, and let's say we define dreams as this sub-reality, right? You could look at it from the bottom and see all of reality first, and then look at the dreams at the very bottom as a subset of that of actual reality, right? And then they're kind of subreal because they're not at the top, they're not what you see first. But then you can flip it upside down, and then suddenly you begin, this is what Jason was saying earlier, you begin to see reality through the lens of the dream. So the narrative of the dream,
That's really
things
good.
things can project onto that most bottom layer.
That's
and you can
really
flip
good.
it on either side.
You got to draw this for us, John.
I know. I'm not
All
tracking
right,
with
Microsoft
the
Paint.
By the way, Jason, I wasn't trying to say that only material things are real.
But then how are dreams not real? You said dreams weren't real.
No, dreams are sub-realities. Maybe is the better way to look at it.
Some
But
people would
I don't
say
want to
that-
use sub to make it sound foundational, but I want to use it sub to make it sound below or lesser.
yeah, but
Unless
some people would disagree and say that the material is sub-reality.
well, I think that the material is sub-reality actually.
Yeah, when we're talking about
and I think that-
essences, right?
Well, I think that the material
okay,
is a
'cause you-
sub-reality to the spiritual.
Yeah, and which would be
Yeah.
which would include could, I don't know that I should say could include dreams in Dreamworld and all that stuff.
So-
Because that's eternal. Like you don't get rid of that. Like even when it comes in form of memory, like my dog's dead now, but I still have the memory. The memory is eternal.
I still think memory is a sub-reality. Yeah. I think the Christian version of this model would have the glorified realm as the bottom layer, and that the next transparent layer would reflect onto that, and then say
Glorified
dreams or
realm.
alternate realities or memories would reflect onto that.
What do you mean the glorified realm is the bottom layer? Like the most
I would think of that as
foundational?
the most real.
The most real. Okay, so
And
as the
so
bottom layer.
we're in a
Okay.
sub-reality currently.
Okay.
Most real.
Okay. So like the most foundational is what you're kind of getting at when you say bottom layer. Like the most.
We're the most real.
Top down, bottom up stuff. Is that what we're talking about here? With these discs and flipping them and
Came first, the correct egg or the chicken with its head cut off?
or the chicken with its head cut off.
John, what are you cooking up over there?
I know. He's
Oh,
getting on
I'm working in
paint.
Microsoft Paint.
just-
I'm just
Are
trying
you
to
really?
I thought he was just gonna
I'm trying to
project it.
illustrate something
3D
that
model.
I feel like
Can we
we've
see
been
your-
thinking about.
Can we see your work in progress?
That'd be
I'd like to-
awesome.
I'm really this is kind of tough trying to draw up what I think we're trying to get at here, but this is about the
Watch
best
it.
I can
He
come
probably-
up with.
He probably just drew a wiener.
Whoa.
Ooh, I like all the colors. So wait, what's going on here? Explain
So
this to
here
me.
we have a bunch of men in space. We have Alex Jones in the bottom right
Yeah, how
corner.
did you do all this that fast? This is impressive.
I was
You've
just
Just
been
had those
preparing this.
images on his desktop. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, no, John, should bring it back.
Yeah,
That was
we
his
lost
past
it.
3 screensavers.
You gotta, bring it back. You gotta explain this to
Okay.
us.
Show me the
Okay.
glory.
I was really just hoping Mitch can interpret this for us.
No chance.
Okay, what is the
The
so
black circle is throwing me.
what is the black circle?
This one right here.
No, the one that goes the one that's horizontal.
Yeah, what is?
Oh,
I'm
that's
curious
like-
about the little mole as well too. If you get into that next.
Man, Craig, do you want to take this one?
What? You drew this? I'm just gonna start drawing things now. All right, someone else take this. Interpret this.
Oh man.
What was the black ring around all of them?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
I can't
It-
actually draw anything.
just felt right?
I was just being
That was a,
I
that
like
was a
it.
nice teaser.
I like
I
it.
was just being
So
dumb.
do we think, just poll here, do we think, it seems like we're all pretty comfortable with the idea of layers. Talking about these things, these realms, these layers. Do we all like the layer analogy?
Real quick, guys, I'm gonna have to tap out. I gotta be up super early in the morning. I didn't
Mm.
realize how late it was. But
Do what you
you
gotta
guys
do.
finish. I'll catch up. It was great talking to you.
So
Hey,
we're gonna
John.
end it with that picture. All right, see ya. See you, man. So layers.
Do you guys like layers? Does that feel like an appropriate way to talk about it?
Yeah. Like
Now-
any good Trinitarian model, it's totally incomplete.
Wait, what? What? Not mine.
And are we
Mine
talking?
is mine is
Are we
spot
talking
on.
about? Are we talking about layers like in a cake or layers like in an onion? Or like in an ogre?
Get an ogre. Oh man.
I like cake a little bit because it seems like something that I like what John said, that you could look through one and it influence the other.
Mm. Mm.
I'm not tracking with this. Like look
That helps
through
with the
one.
dreams, Jason. It's your whole dream thing that when you look at actual reality through the dream reality, it's going to influence actual reality.
You know, actually, I think I might disagree fundamentally because
Okay.
we have, this is something I've probably said before, but we have what we call our articulate knowledge. This is facts, let's say, that we're conscious of. But then the fact that we can sit around here and you can discover things that you didn't know just by thinking about it, means that our conscious knowledge is embedded in our unconscious knowledge.
Yeah, I don't see how that's problematic.
That
I brought that up because you had talked about seeing reality through the dream.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I'm looking through the dream to reality, and it's making a difference on how I view reality. So I'm looking through one reality to another, and it's
to use a allegory of the cave type example. In that analogy, the shadows on the wall are the articulate knowledge, but they're shadows of, let's call it the dream layer, the inarticulate, the unknowable part.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say look through, it sounded like as if you were saying we're looking through the dream at reality, but I think it's the other way. I think we're looking through reality at the dream.
I like that. I like that personally, but that's I think that's getting in a whole. I almost brought this up when John was here as well. The whole idea of the land of shadows thing in George MacDonald's book with the golden key.
Mm.
And like right now we're kind of in this is kind of the shadow. We're kind of in the world of shadows right now.
But because the dream is a sub-reality, it's only come about through reality. So it's not so much influencing it as it is. I mean, it generated it, and then you are able to then, having experienced that reality, look back at your reality in a different light. So I still don't know if it's a problem. I mean, it's not going to be a perfect model, but
it sounds like you're saying something like, I'm trying to make a visualization here. You have the dream world and you have the waking world, let's say. It sounds like you're saying that they're both nested in reality, which is this larger structure.
Yeah, for sure.
It sounds like you're saying it sounded like you're saying we look through reality we look through reality we look through the dream at reality. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and the great part about this model, full credit to John, is that with the transparent disc, right? I can look through waking life to the spiritual plane, and it influences it. And I can look through waking life to the dream world, and it influences it. I can look through the dream world to the waking life, and it influences it. I think it's really good.
Are we talking about dream world? Like when we're referencing that, are we just saying that's the unknowable, the subconscious? Because to me, it seems
Unknown,
more
not necessarily unknowable.
unknown. Okay.
I don't know if everyone said
to me,
no.
Yeah, because I think what Mitch is talking about, he's not necessarily saying unknown. I think he's thinking more of just like the realm of symbols, essences, things like that, the heavenly patterns or something, right? Sort of.
I was talking about, dare I say, literal dreams. But
literal dreams, yeah, or like an imaginal realm or something where it's kind of it's perceivable.
Well, you're talking about something. I think bigger, Jason, because it sounds like, Mitch, you're talking about the actual experiences that we have when we're dreaming, and not some things that's nested into.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The experience you have when you're sleeping and then having conscious
Yeah, but
kind of experiences.
but isn't the experience you're having when you're dreaming coming from the dream world, which would be the
Where do those come from is what you got to ask. What's the
That-
source of those dreams?
Oh,
And the answer is there's a dream, there's a deeper wellspring,
uh-huh
and it's this dream world, this
Yeah.
unknown place.
this
you
yeah,
haven't sold me on a dream world yet, Jason.
it's not it's not imperceivable, I guess. A lot of it is unknown, but I think that's kind of what Mitch was saying, like it's not, because
You're
it's
perceiving
like
imagery.
I think Craig, you said it was like when it was a conversation we had a while back, and you said the inkwell, and I really like that term, and it seems like the dream world is kind of almost something
Yeah.
like that, but you can still pull things out of it. Like you can still get ink out of it, and then you can look through that. Like Mitch is saying, like you get a dream out of the dream world, and then you're looking through that lens in a way. Like you've woken from this dream, and now you've got these, I don't know, rose-colored glasses on, and you're looking
You've
at the
seen
world for a
something
second.
about, do you mean you've seen something about the dream world through your interaction with the dream itself?
Yeah. Like the dream is perceivable. The dream world is still kind of this vast inkwell or unknown. I'm trying to get it because I feel like when we're saying dream world, we're not all necessarily on exactly the same page. It's like the dreams come from the dream world. Like the
I
dreams
think you and I are on the same page.
Yeah, I think so.
It's as if, I mean, to extend this analogy into weird territory, it's as if you're on a boat. If you're in a dream, a literal dream, as Mitch says, it's as if you're in a boat on water, and you can see through the water. It's opaque, and you can see something in it, but your vision is not complete.
Mhm.
And that water below is what you and I are describing as a dream world, Jason, I think. And the literal dream is the visions from, it's
Mhm.
what's visible in the dream
Yeah.
from a
Yeah,
certain vantage point.
because the dream world seems to be, just this vast ocean of potentialities or whatever you want to call it. Just like,
Well, potentiality is the right word, and that's why inkwell is appropriate too. Potential is the right word, I think.
yeah. There's this verse in scripture too that I always liked. It says, when the Lord brought back the captivity of Zion, we were like those who dream.
Mm.
I need to look up that
That's a
word for
good line.
dream.
That's so good.
Yeah. So like it makes me think of that, like when you kind of come out of this captivity of mind or something, you get to go into that inkwell a little bit.
Craig, it feels like you're trying to get us to that place that you lamented we weren't in that conversation we had about writing.
Say more.
Well, it feels like you're saying, all right, let's stop for a second. What are we calling this? What are we calling this? So you're giving us things that we can build on. How we visualizing this, and so that we're able to build on what we're talking about rather than just keep going in circles around each other.
Building waypoints.
Yeah, waypoints. Okay. It's exciting.
I keep having this picture in my head, and it's probably from this. I don't know how relevant this is, but I watched one of Luke Thompson, his video earlier, and then it made me think about you guys are familiar with the flower of life or the tree of life thing in the sacred geometry?
No.
It's like it's basically just kind of like a language of shapes or whatever. But it's I don't know why it's coming back to my mind. That's why I'm not sure if it's relevant, but it starts with a point, and like, so you have just one point, and that's kind of like, they would say that's God or that's consciousness. It's like, it's the only way they know how to define it without language. You just put a point or something, and then you draw a circle around it, and that's your knowable consciousness. That's your reality, basically. That's what you've mapped, that territory. But now that you have that, you can put another point and then draw another circle and go from that point and like just keep doing it. And then it makes this I think it's called like the egg of life or the flower of life. I don't know, you guys should look it up. It's interesting. But I'm wondering if that's kind of like what we're doing here now. Like we're getting this, like we're putting a point, like you said, and then now we can expand this into another circle.
There's this thing that Stephen Wolfram says. He talks about building these knowledge structures, these waypoints, and we're building structures that you can go up inside of, and once you build them, they're like a vantage point.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that name.
What's that?
I'll never forget that name. You sent me like his thesis. He's like, nobody else is talking about this. You'll see. You'll all see.
Yeah, that was a really impactful day on me.
You know, don't let me forget, man, because I've got the guy that is going to take your math theory to the next level. I found him at my church, and he is very, very smart. And he knows. I was like, just hit me with the history of mathematics. Like where did they start? Where did they come? And he was just like, you answer all my questions. I didn't even know what I was asking half the time. I was like, I've got a guy, and you have to listen to his theory. He said, I'd be glad to. So
he sounds like the kind of guy that could send you on a journey.
I think so, man. I when you tell us about your math theories, I'm like, I feel so bad for you because I have no idea what you're talking about. And maybe you have people that do, but
I think I'm mostly talking nonsense.
That can't be true.
No.
Yeah.
John can definitely track though, for sure.
John, is he a math guy?
I think so. Yeah.
That's cool.
Man, this is how I felt. I was thinking that earlier when I was listening to all three of you talk. I was just like, God, these guys are so much smarter than me. What am I doing?
Like,
I was is that why you put him on your prophecy show?
Yeah. I was hiding. And then finally one of you said something. Then I was like, okay, now I'm back. I was like able to kind of come back. And I was like, I didn't know where you guys went for a while. There you go. Yeah. I like that shirt, by the way, Craig. I meant to mention that earlier. Texas forever.
I always remember that song you sent, Jason. Don't
Me
Me Die in Waco.
Yeah.
That one just
Who sang
so
that?
funny.
I forgot about that.
I can't remember, but
no-name slob.
I'll pull it up every now and then when I want to laugh.
I want to laugh. Oh man, we didn't even get to the Lady of the Alder Tree. Anyway, that's okay.
This is
another time.
This is the facial hair that Jason's gonna have when he gets back from his journey.
Yeah,
he promised.
I got 10 days to try to grow that. I need to remember.
And he's gonna have these. What do you call them? It's like I want to say Nint's
monocle.
No, there's like a specific term for the glasses that like squeeze to your nose. I want to say it's like NINCE-PEZ, but I'm thinking of the candy dispenser.
Like the little ones. I have little glasses like that actually.
Really?
Yeah, you want me to grab them?
I mean, if they're closed, they're handy.
Yeah, I think so.
What a swinging good time, Craig.
This has been good. We got to keep doing this like way more often. You know what? I have this theory that we had this. Oh yeah, those are good ones.
Is that close enough?
Yeah, but they can't have legs. They can't have legs, and they have to physically like you. Yeah, exactly. That's probably the etymology of
little glasses.
Those look good on you, though.
I'll have these and I'll grow the rest of that thing in.
I'll
come back.
Guys, we had this conversation a while ago about choosing our quest, and my theory is that we've all, without being conscious of it, avoided having a sequel to that conversation.
Well, actually, I think Jason brought it up a couple of times. I want to talk about this.
When are we going to do it? You tell me.
Right now. Let's do it right now. Our quest.
I can't.
I know my quest.
I
know.
His is Christian.
I took what you said. Yes, exactly. I took what you said. I'm like, I'm just going to use this as an impetus to write this thing. I'm going to get a first draft done, and then I can take the machete through it, and get rid of
Oh, that's good.
the fluff, and then add in the
Mm,
plant some stuff that needs to be planted.
there you go.
So
So
where's
I'm a big believer in the first draft. If you guys want to present a thesis and we can all just get on a timetable and like bang out a first draft, like hell or high water,
Mm,
that could be good for us.
yeah, I agree.
And does it come out ugly, pretty, whatever? We complete it, you know.
Yeah. Let's do it and let's have that conversation.
Okay,
So-
so I think the next conversation you have to present a thesis. Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
what do you
Okay.
mean by that? Like what? Like all of us have a different thesis, or all of us working on the same thing?
I would think a different one, but yeah.
Tell us your quest.
Who, me?
How about on Wednesday?
I'm free, but
I
you know, our
don't- okay,
boy's an expat.
Can you like
We'll wait till.
give me an example or something like of what you mean by that? Like, or
Sure.
a
So I
quest?
present my thesis. My thesis is Christian nihilism. I'm going to be
Okay.
exploring the idea that X, Y, and Z. Here's how I'd like to go about it.
Okay.
And then, you know, we can needle each other or not. And
Do you have one, Craig, or no? Do you
No.
have a thesis? You do? Can I hear yours?
No.
No.
gotta
What?
save it
Why
for.
not? Craig hasn't shared anything he's written yet. I'm really
Craig's never
interested.
shared one solitary thing with us.
Yeah. I don't know what mine is either. Like I think that's what I struggle with, because you said what's the quest, what's the thesis? And I'm like, I have stuff that I've written down, but I don't
wonder
it's
if
not
you
a
could
it's not a
consolidate it
coherent
into-
theme. If it is a coherent theme, it seems
I need you to pull the signal from that noise and present it.
it feels very large. Like I'm pursuing it in small ways, but it's kind of like what I was kind of working on.
have
Some
a-
of it's personal stuff written in almost like fiction fantasy form.
Do you have a
stuff-
fairy story?
I don't know. It's a fairy story. I did actually. I was there is a fairy in the part of it, but it's not necessarily structured around fairy story. But that's what I mean. I don't really have a thesis. Like it just seems to be like it's a way for me to kind of play with different ideas, but then at the same time write it in a fantasy type way. And some of it feels very like it is in fairyland. I would say it is in fairyland. Other parts seem to be in like different, like there's like different worlds, different lands, you know, like
Yeah.
like the jungle's different than fairyland. Like, you know, like when you think of the jungle, you kind of think of like heavy drums or something, or like I don't know, like Baloo and what's King Louis dancing to jazz.
You know how in Kingdom Hearts they go to different universes?
No, because I've never played that, sadly.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Such a
Well, I
shame.
was thinking, I mean, is the quest in each world the same one?
It's all different. So okay, so the last thing I wrote, the most recent thing, well, I wrote a tiny little portion today. I'm not really sure what I was even getting at. I just like this thought came into my head of like, what was it? It was like a song that was like a moonlit song. Like that was a term. And I just like that term because it doesn't make sense, like naturally to have a moonlit music or something.
Mm,
Unless you're thinking of it as in like lunar knowledge or subconscious knowledge or something, then it kind of starts to make sense. So I wrote like a small little paragraph on that today. But then the last thing I kind of wrote was I have this one character, and I think I mentioned to you before, like this character seemed to kind of in at least a similar character appeared in one of George MacDonald's books that I mentioned that had like this Pegasus pony, but it basically the character is just this little girl, kind of almost based it off of Final Fantasy VI character in there a little bit, but it's basically kind of a childlikeness type character, and it's a little girl. And so the last thing I wrote was I had recently listened to the story of Prometheus again, and then I was just thinking, like I'm just gonna play with this idea of like the fourth, because Prometheus I think means like forethought or forethinking, like thinking ahead and preparing ahead. And I was like, I want to kind of play with that idea if that concept came to a child, is I don't think it would be good. Because
If
when you're a child, like that's kind of one of the nice things about being a child is your parents provide for you. You don't really have to worry about making a fire or where you're going to get fire from or how you're going to cook your food, how you're going to preserve it or anything. And it kind of reminded me of the part where Jesus is talking about, he says like, don't worry about what you're going to eat, what you're going to wear, what you're going to put on. Because children don't worry about those things, but Prometheus worries about those things. And so it's kind of this, I had this, and I don't even know if that was originally where I was taking it. But I was just kind of trying to like write about her. I mean, I could just read it to you guys if you wanted. I don't remember how long it is though. It's maybe a page. It's not super long. But then this basically this apparition appeared before her, and then it turned into a man, and then it looked desirable in a way, because the forethought is desirable. Like to me, I think it is like you want to prepare for your future and it's not even like that thing's bad, but it seems like it would be bad for a child to have that in a way. Or it would kind of almost it would have the potentiality of destroying the childlikeness in the child.
Yeah, that's a good thesis, man. Prometheus as a child.
But that's like one page. But that's what I mean. That's one page, and like this, and then I don't know what to do with it because it's like all this nonsense stuff, and I'm like,
That's
how do I combine all this?
It's your quest, man. If you knew what to do with it, it wouldn't be your quest. Then you'd be complete and in heaven.
That's true. I guess that's true. Yeah.
Jason, when are you back in the country?
Oh, we get back. So we leave tomorrow, then we get back the next Sunday. So we're gone for 10 days.
Okay.
But I think like if you guys wanted to meet up again, I was saying, I think might have been right before you hopped on that. I think I'm like, I think when John looked at it, I think like 9 o'clock Eastern time here is about like 5 or 6 a.m. over there. So I could do like the early morning call and hop on and meet you guys if you wanted to. Probably.
It's your funeral, man.
It's my funeral. Well, it'd have to be early.
I wouldn't want to keep you from your quest.
From my quest in India.
Yeah. Do India things in India.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure I will. I don't know. Last time I was there, I don't always like sleep super well anyway. But I remember last time we went, I think I was up at like at the latest by 6 every morning because I'd just get up. I'd wake up and then I'd just get up and read some of my Bible before the day started or whatever. So if you guys wanted to, we could maybe schedule something like that, assuming I have good internet. I don't even know if that'll happen or not. So
we'll talk about it as it goes on. Yeah. But if not, we'll do it when we get back.
All right. Yeah, because I definitely need to hear about your quest, Craig, and hear about all this, what it is, your thesis that's been so hidden, so mysterious.
Christian empiricism.
Nice.
But seriously, Mitch, you gotta do that.
It's on my radar.
Guys, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. You guys have a good night.
Laughs.
Yeah, see you.